Hey, it's Daniel. I'm the producer of Nick's podcast. In this episode, Nick sits down with James Laidlaw to break down how he walked away from a high-paying commission job and built a multi-million-dollar golf simulator business from scratch. They talk about reinvesting every dollar, surviving explosive growth during COVID, merging instead of competing, and why autonomy beats comfort every time. If you ever thought about leaving your job or building something of your own, this one's for you. Let's get into it.
James, welcome, man. It's I want to go a lot of directions with this podcast, but first, say hello and tell people what you do, and then I think we're gonna share a lot of things about business and why golf is a big part of that.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you. Thanks for having me. James from InHome Golf. We build custom golf simulator rooms for people. A lot of it is in people's homes, as you know, because we did one for you.
Yeah, a lot of commotion on the internet on January 13th, 2026, when I posted a picture of my simulator room that you built. I'll put this at the top of the show notes so people can see it. It got 880,000 views, and it's a picture of my kid, my 6-year-old, playing the TrackMan games. He's playing Junkyard, where you hit sticks of dynamite at cars and explode them, and yeah, a lot of hate in the fact that, it's beautiful and folks get jealous, which I always love to see on the internet. But we did this right, man. I think, let's talk just briefly about my setup and what you did for me. And also I want to make a disclosure here at the beginning. James and I, we're going to talk business. He's going to share some things about his company. He's going to talk about what's great about it, what's hard about it, what's the ups and downs of entrepreneurship, how he got his first customers. But also, this is a great setup, and you have different price ranges, right? So it's not all about, the top of the line, like what I got, but also that I don't get a kickback if somebody goes and uses your service from this, James. I think you're a friend of mine, but if somebody goes and buys, there's no Nick Huber fee added on top of that. There's nothing really in this for me at this point. But why don't you start with giving folks your email, because people are looking at this picture right now, and I think they might want one of these in their homes. I want to talk a little bit about business, about golf, why it's been a great investment for me and my kids. But what's your email so that people can get a hold of you and get a quote on one of these things?
Yep, super simple. James at InHomeGolf.com. That's it.
James at InHomeGolf.com.
Yeah, no spaces, dashes, or anything. Just straight up James at InHomeGolf.com.
Great. And I got the TrackMan IO system. Let's talk some tech and these simulators while people are looking at this picture before we talk about kind of the importance of golf and why I think it's such a big part of business.
Sure.
What did you put in my house? It looks like we had enough room to kind of do exactly what we wanted to do in here.
Yeah. So the TrackMan IO, which is the TrackMan device that they came out with a year or so ago, which is the overhead unit specifically for simulators, as opposed to the professional device, which sits on the ground outside. So this is indoor only, and easily the leading technology in the industry. Probably the most expensive as well, but there's good reasons for that. They've got, I'm going to say 900 courses now. It changes all the time. Full 4K, tons of games for the kids, which is what you were talking about. And of course, TrackMan's incredible technology, which is what powers it, right? So, it's one of the top of the line. And then I think we put a 4K projector in your place.
We got the BenQ.
BenQ.
Those things can range. You can go anywhere from $100 on Amazon up to $20,000 for super high lumen. What range is this BenQ that I got? Because man, it's phenomenal. We watch movies in here. Yeah. I have my windows wide open and I'm watching golf or curling in this case, whatever we're doing on the same day.
I was earlier today. I was watching curling, the Olympic curling in the showroom here on a 4K 15-foot wide screen, and it's incredible. So the BenQ 936 ST, which is the one you've got the LK 936 ST, and it's I'm going to say it's $5,500. It's an expensive projector. There's no doubt about it. But when you're building that custom golf room, you want to make it the best that it can be, right? And like you said, there's levels. Like we can do less than that. But if you want to put in a really cool system, you're going to have to put in a really cool projector. The projector is what people see, right? The launch monitor, the TrackMan is what captures the data, right? And that's the ball flight and the data parameters and all the numbers that you see in the actual movement of the ball. And then the PC that powers it is about the speed, and then the projector is about the image that you see. So they all kind of work together. And when you align them and put them in correctly, it can be stunning. Really.
There's three things I love about TrackMan. The games for my kids. They're in here all the time, banging balls. They're getting better, all three of them. My 3-year-old, my 6-year-old, my 8-year-old can all hit a ball.
Yeah.
I like the overhead, and the data on it is unbelievable. The fact that I can tell where on my club face I hit the ball. Millimeters from hosel and millimeters up from the bottom of my club.
Yeah.
And an image on every single shot, whether I'm playing a match or on the range. It shows an image of my club path going towards the ball. It has made me a ball striker where that if I miss on the toe, I know that I missed on the toe. If I'm close to my hosel, I know I'm close to my hosel. And that has made that alone took me from a 10 handicap to a 7 handicap in 6 months.
It's such a powerful tool when it's used correctly, right? Like when you use it and you actually use it to improve in practice, and that feeling of where the club is on the club face as you swing translates, like once you learn it, and it translates to when you're outdoors and you can hit a ball outdoors and go, yeah, that's going right or that's going left or whatever. And I mean, you really get a good sense of it. But TrackMan didn't start as a simulator company. TrackMan started as a professional use. I mean, originally they started just for the manufacturers, right? How far does the ball go? You know, when they came out with the original TrackMans, there wasn't any technology outdoors. They were, Titleist and the big equipment companies were using laser rangefinders to track ball flight, right? So it's progressed. Their business has progressed on the professional side, right? And just all things being, cards on the table here. Before I started this business, I worked for TrackMan. I worked for TrackMan for 4 years in Canada as their director of sales. So I sold their products across the country for almost 4 years, and it was professional use. Before they got into simulators, it was professional use. Club fitters, teachers, right? So that's where they really grew their business, was on that side. So their data is impeccable, and the conversion into golf simulators just makes them the ideal company for this. I mean, it's a great product. It really is.
Yeah, and I also do TrackMan Combine, especially when I'm getting ready for golf tournaments. I'll do the TrackMan Combine, which is the 60 shots, from 60 yards all the way up to driver. Yeah. That makes you so much better at golf because you're focusing on an actual golf shot instead of just raking balls and smacking them away.
How often do you do that?
Man, I've probably done the Combine 300 times. Okay.
Because I think you're in the minority. I don't have a stat on this. I don't have a stat on this, and the people at TrackMan might, and they might correct me, and that's fine. But I think a lot of my clients who buy TrackMan, we sell other things as well, but the people who buy the TrackMan, I think some of them are doing what you're doing, where you're getting in and grinding, and other ones are just using the experience of the great graphics and the golf courses. But I'm always curious about that because I don't have that in me when I golf. I don't have the patience for the Combine. Maybe I'm not good enough. But I'm glad you're getting use of it.
I want to get good at golf. We can talk about that in just a second, of how this ties to business. But look, some guys spend money on Rolex watches. Some guys spend money on fancy cars, brand new trucks. I put about $200,000 in this room that I'm in right now. $60,000 of it was on the simulator setup. I also put some cabinetry in, a bar, and then I put in a system where I can smoke a cigar in here, and it pulls air out of my room. And it has been an unbelievable asset to create memories. Not only do my kids and I hang out in here all the time, I can take a phone call and I can chip and putt around. I can sit back and watch a show with my wife in the evening. But I can also have a Super Bowl party here. I can have a March Madness party here. And it's just a place that people want to hang out. So, yeah, I think it's already been worth the investment for me. I guess that's easy for me to say. But talk about the price ranges a little bit, James. Like if somebody wants to get a simulator built by your company and they want it to be top of the line, perfect. What's the high end of what they can spend, and then kind of on down to what if they have kind of the space for it.
Well, so we'll break it into a couple different segments here, because if you're talking about custom design build, meaning we're going to cut screens for your room and personally fit it into your space, you're probably starting in the $30,000 range and running up to 60 or 70, and there's different things there's different price ranges. It's not as simple as just saying this is the price, because there's a lot of options, right? But we're part of Indoor Golf Shop, which is an online retail store, and on that side of the company, you can buy everything from entry-level launch monitors, do-it-yourself frame kits, all the stuff you need to get set up in your garage, right? It doesn't have to be that expensive to be operational, but InHome is the division that does the custom work.
Yeah, and the tech has been accelerating very quickly. I think these TrackMan, these IO TrackMan systems are $20,000 plus, but
they are.
Talk about some of the other things out there that folks can get, really good value if their goal is entertainment, getting a great ball flight, feeling.
I'm going to tie this technology piece in with what you had just previously said about how you use your space, right? About using it as an entertainment room with your family as well as for business. So we're going to tie all that together, because this is a great way to do it. So when customers come to us, the first thing I ask them is how big is your space? And most people think we're going to go right into the launch monitor. What launch monitor do you want? Let's start upselling you on technology, which we don't do that at all. I start right on space. So I want to know, what your ceiling height. Everybody thinks you need lots of ceiling height. You don't. You need about 10 feet. You need a good width. If you want to hit down the center line, you need 14 or 15 feet wide, so you can have, because your whole entire swing is on one side of the room, right? A lefty would be on the other side, a righty would be on one side. So you need width, and then you need depth. And then if you want to have friends over, and if you want to have an entertainment space, if you want to enjoy the room around it, you need to incorporate that extra room. So I get a lot of calls from people that are like, hey man, I got 12 by 19 floor area. Okay, well, you're narrow, and you don't have enough room to put a couch with 4 people and bags. And those are conversations we have literally daily with people, right? A really great space would be 15 feet wide by 30, right? And 30 would give you room to have chairs and hangout area, as well as a safe swing space. So that's typically where we start. Then the next part of that is, let's talk about how you're going to use the space, and again ties back to what I said earlier about not all of my customers will use the technology the way you are, grinding your numbers, right? A lot of people just want, I say guys a lot, but typically our customers are mostly men. A lot of guys, they're trying to build that entertainment space. They're really looking for an environment to have their friends and family over. They're looking for a space. And golf is a huge part of it, there's no doubt. But I would say 90 to 95% of our customers do not grind away on their 7-irons within a tenth of a degree, and they're not working their game the same way you are. I think most of it is recreational, and then that leads to the technology piece. Well, do you need a $23,000 launch monitor? Because if I could, we have other options like. We sell Foresight and Unicore and True Golf and Pro Tee and Golf End. There's a whole bunch of other launch monitors that can do a lot of the same things without necessarily the super high-end data analytic tools that TrackMan offers. And we started talking with TrackMan because that's what you have. But there are other options at lower prices. And so that, as part of our sales process, that's how we evolve the conversation, is start with space. What's your and what your vision is? What is it? You and I had this similar conversation, right? Tell me about what you're doing in the room. And you had already kind of dedicated enough space, so it made it a very easy conversation. You had a vision already, so it was really easy for us to do that. But I think we moved. I think you had some bulkheads, and I requested you to move it over, if I remember correctly. Do you remember that?
Which my daughter is a lefty, so I didn't know that when I was working with you. And also I have a buddy who's a lefty, and we had enough room to make it full width. But it's very tricky because we luckily had 16 feet to work with wide. Yeah. But if we would have only had 12 or, so we would have definitely been off to one side. So it's I think we have the perfect setup, but I was lucky enough to have a big enough room.
Yeah, but if I remember correctly, we actually had that discussion, and I think there might have been some things that were moved. in your ceiling. But anyway, but this is the way we approach it, because our goal is really to get the thing that's right for you, right? And for not everybody needs that stuff that you need. So you can get launch monitors for half the price of TrackMan, which will serve a lot of purposes. 20,000 or 2,000 golf courses, full 4K, amazing accuracy, all those things. So all those things are out there without the price tag.
Yeah, and let's talk about golf, because man, business golf, I didn't know that it was going to be as powerful as it was. 2019 is when I picked up golf from the very beginning. Like, I was a 30 handicap guy who lost 10 balls around and was kicking it out in the fairway every other hole. The guy that I am, I want to be good at everything that I do, and I took it very seriously, and maybe that's why I'm grinding away on numbers. But I spent a lot of time trying to get good at golf, and I wanted to be fast enough. I wanted to know the rules, and I wanted to be able to score sometimes and be fun to play with for people. And really, that's all it took. So when I was about a 15 or 18 handicap is when golf started to become valuable for me. I got to go out with somebody and build a deeper relationship with them by walking on the golf course or hanging out on the golf course with them. I met a lot of new friends, and I've actually ended up doing business with a lot of people who play golf. Is that everybody, or is that kind of, I don't know. I feel like just saying that you know how to play golf and getting invited on these golf trips, getting in the foursomes, opens up a lot of doors when it comes to business.
I think it's changed a little over the years. And I think a lot of it, I think the explosion of the golf simulator industry is a reaction to some of the reasons that that golf relationship has changed. So before I was in simulators, I used to sell hospitality packages for the Canadian Open golf tournament, which was all about doing business, right? It was creating an environment for people to come together and do business. And so I've spent lots of time on the golf course with clients and, building relationships. So I know what you're talking about, and that's why private golf clubs are still a thing, right? People join these clubs to network, and they go out and they build a network of people in their community, and that's a really powerful thing. But as business evolved, I think it became harder and harder and harder for people to spend an entire day on the golf course, and I think companies are less and less likely than they used to be to let their staff go out and play, because everybody's connected now 24/7, and if somebody sends you a text, they expect it to be returned in a reasonable amount of time. And on the golf course, you're not supposed to be taking calls or looking at your phone. So, right? So I think there was a time, 2010, 2015, where golf as a whole retracted, and I think that had a big part of it was people's ability to do business and the demands of their companies to not be lost for a day. And even though what you said is right about it, building relationships is really good, but owners of your companies need to understand that you're capable of doing that and still getting your job done. And I think there's a lot of balancing there. But then simulators have come along, and I don't know if it's like this in your area, but the indoor golf centers have just exploded. They've been big in Korea for decades. And now America and Canada is seeing that boom, where the technology is such that people have accepted that it's good enough to represent the real game, and people are going to indoor golf centers, and then there was this thing called COVID, which had a huge impact on my business, but also people got out golfing. The participation numbers of golf courses skyrocketed during COVID. And the golf courses are reporting massive upticks of use since then. So there's a real influx of people back to the golf course, where I think 15 years ago or 10, 15 years ago there was a retreat. It's come back.
I think it's also a tool. I think you're underestimating the fact that a lot of people are intimidated by the game. Like, they want to join a really nice country club. They want to go meet high-profile people, other entrepreneurs, people who think like them. They want to get their kids the skill of being able to play future golf and being included in some of these things. But it's really hard when you're a 25 handicap to get invited to some of the games with some of the 10, 15 handicap guys who play every week. And I think I look at the simulator as like a tool to get better fast.
Right.
It's a tool to get better fast. But then again, we're we have bourbon nights and cigar nights and have our friends over, and our kids are hanging out in here all the time. So it's both for me. It's a tool for me to get better and to make my kids better at the game.
Yeah.
And then it's also entertainment.
You're right about being a high handicapper, right? If you're slapping it around and can't get a ball off the tee deck to the fairway, you're not going to get invited back to a lot of those things. Now you don't have to be a scratch player or a single digit handicapper. You just have to be capable, right?
Yep.
And those indoor golf centers are really. I mean, around here they're booming. Like there's some on every corner here. They're definitely growing, and there's huge brands out there doing multiple chains like 5 Iron and Golf Lounge 18. There's a number of them that are just blossoming all over North America. It's quite amazing to see. It's quite amazing to see. So
so I think the investing in the game is a big part of business, in my opinion. Like I would encourage people to do it. I think my country club membership was one of the best investments I've ever made. I love the game. I love being able to disconnect for a little while. Technology allows me to make the turn and make sure I didn't lose anything in business. I'm not falling behind. And the simulator allows me to get better, and it just creates an environment where my kids are going to grow up around the game, and I can, have a place to entertain. It's been very, very high value purchase in my life. So I'm pretty excited about it.
Awesome. How often are you playing in the simulator every week? Are you getting in there like once a week and playing around?
Oh, more. I don't play around. I play around a couple times a month, but I will just chip or do some of the challenges or TrackMan Combine or hit balls at the range 3 times a week. So it's making me better a lot faster.
That's what I do too. I'll get into the afternoon, or like I get into a rut in the afternoon, and I'll just go I'll spend 20 minutes hitting wedges, and then I'll go back to work. And then because I have it here in the showroom, like you've got it right in your office. I've got 2 simulators in the next room. So yeah, it's quite amazing.
So let's talk business. I think your journey is very interesting because in 2017 is when you left your W-2 and started InHome Golf. Is that right?
That's right. Yep.
And that's like I get messages from entrepreneurs weekly that like, hey, I got this business. It's getting a little bit of traction. I know I could potentially hack it, but I got this job and I got these kids and I got this house payment. How am I going to leave that to do this? I guess, do we want to kind of give somebody a screenshot of where you're at today to kind of work backwards, or do you want to talk about that feeling when you were about to leave the cushy I wouldn't say cushy,
I can go right back to the beginning. I mean, yeah, we can talk about where I am today, but when it started, I was working for another company, and I had young teenagers at home, and a wife with a job, and family and a mortgage, and all exactly that scenario that you just built was exactly me. And, I spent my entire career being a commission salesperson, so I'm a bit of a lone wolf. I don't like to have to report to people. I don't like when companies, monitor my phone calls out. And, I know that's part of being a salesperson on a big team, but I've never been motivated that way. I've always been like, if you're going to judge me by my numbers at the end of the year. But so as a result, I think I'm a bad employee. I change jobs a lot, and I think that's a mark of a lot of entrepreneurs. Guys who just don't settle. They don't settle down easily. They're always jumping and moving to the next thing. And I was getting that. I had this. I was dealing with customers selling simulators, and customers were asking for things that my company wasn't providing. The customization, the upgrades, all those other things. And that's what led me to think that I could do it on my own, right? I could do this. Hey, man, I could just go and build these things for people. And so I had that talk with my wife. And you want to talk about how to make that decision? You got to have a partner. If you have a partner and you have family and kids, they better be on board. I mean, your kids don't have to be on board, but your wife better be, right? Your spouse better be on board. And I think that's a really big deal, because we're like, I didn't come from money. I didn't have a nest egg of money waiting to go invest in a business. I had to build it. And thankfully my wife was basically like, yeah, if you think you can do it, go do it. And she just literally gave me free rein, which was a really big deal. And I've talked to a lot of entrepreneurs over the years, and that's a big one, because a lot of entrepreneurs go through divorce. There's stress, there's money stress, there's all kinds of things. You've got to have a home scenario that is compatible with your plan.
This might be personal, but sales guys make a lot of money. Like, were you able to save? Were you able to save some money? Like, what was your highest earning year when you were working for the man at any company, leading up to when you left? How much money did you have in the bank? Like, how steep was the cliff that you jumped off of when you went and started that company?
It's a good question. I mean, I had been making anywhere between 100 and 170 grand a year. It varied.
Yep.
I wasn't loaded, but it was certainly more than the average. Like, I was doing well. I felt like I was doing well. But I had put money away. My wife and I have been putting money into our retirement fund for a couple decades, and that was not on the table. That was never on the table to touch that. That was always put away. So to me, whatever money I was going to spend, I was going to have to make. And I didn't take any money and invest it. So what happened was, as I left my job, I had a couple of contracts, and I just took all of that profit and put it back in. I didn't pay myself for probably the first year, and that's a tough one as well, right? That's a tough position as well. But there was growth, right? There was literal, like, we could see growth. What I was really trying to do at the time was replace my income and build a little cottage industry where I could just, work by myself, had a website and a guy that ran it. And I had a guy who was a part-time installer, would help me do installs. And then, then I found a guy who was in simulator sales and was looking to make a change. So I brought him on as a commission-only guy, which I've always liked being commission-only. And that's how we run the entire sales team now, still is commission-only. So you eat what you kill, which just makes, it's like if you're going to get up in the morning and go to work, you're going to produce something, or else you're not going to make any money.
Did your wife have a job just to pay some of the bills during that first year when you left?
Yeah, she did, which was great. I mean, my kids were early mid-teens, so they were, they could get themselves fed and get to school on their own, and they didn't need, we didn't have to manage them as well as much. It's not like they were in diapers, right? And so that helped.
And you were probably frugal. You were probably frugal as well. Like, lifestyle creep is very easy, and a lot of guys I know who are, have some kids, they're in their 40s, 50s. It's very difficult to leave and go start a company, because they've just, every time they get a raise, they go join the country club, they go get a nicer car, they upgrade neighborhoods.
Yeah, it's true, right? You spend your limit, like whatever you have, you spend it, and that's totally true. So it was I don't know whether it was tough. It was busy. I was busy the whole year. Like, it was a lot. And the reaction from the internet pulling leads in was more than I had anticipated. So right away, and I knew that at that time, if you wanted to buy a simulator, you were probably buying it from the manufacturer, meaning you were buying, there was Full Swing and About Golf and TrackMan and Foresight, and those are all companies that make the technology, the launch monitor technology. Well, they also have simulator divisions that build the simulators. Now, most of them at the time were trying to build sim in a box or stock sizes, right? Because the custom stuff is hard. Custom stuff requires a lot of effort, which is why I was doing this. I was like, well, let's give the customers a better choice. And so the reaction from the internet, from my leads, was greater than I had anticipated, and it led me to.
What was your marketing niche that first year? Like, how did you find those first customers, and what was your revenue? And I know you only had some part-time help, so it was probably really good margins, because it was just you, like, busting it, flying around, driving around outside of Ontario, in southern Ontario.
It was, and I didn't have any infrastructure. I didn't have a showroom that I was paying for. The turf company that I was buying turf from wanted a simulator in their office, so I built them a simulator and cut a deal with them, and they allowed me to use that as a showroom. So I wasn't paying rent, but I had a showroom without rent, and I was literally working out of my basement. And now I've got one installer, one sales guy. I've got a marketing guy who built the website and does Google ads and that kind of stuff. And we were testing and learning and trying to figure out how to get how to get people to submit submit the form, and it was snowballing. And in 2019, you're going.
This is already in the first 2 years out. You already had those 3 full-time, like a part-time sales guy, full-time installer, and then a marketing guy who was helping you with site and drumming up business.
Yeah, that would have been in the first year. Yeah, first.
What was your first 12 months in business, like post W-2? What was your revenue? Like how many jobs were you able to get?
750,000, 800,000.
Holy shit, James.
Yeah. No, it was a lot. It was a lot. and at simulators at roughly average of 40 grand a simulator. It was, I did 20 simulators or something that year, roughly.
So was the first guy that marketing guy, was he the wizard that kind of supercharged your company? Did he just know how to get you leads that would convert?
Yeah, he knew nothing about the golf simulator industry. He was just good at it. He just knew what he was doing.
That's great.
And there are those guys out there. I mean, there's a lot of hacks out there in the industry, but there are guys that are good. And this guy had done some work for another friend of mine, and he was good at it. But then year two grew even more. It was probably October of year 2 where I cleared $1 million in booked orders, which was like, again, I had never really conceived of that as the goal. I didn't even really have it as a goal. I was just advertising and responding to the market, and leads were coming in, and I was just responding
and working your ass off.
Yeah, and I was just in a response mode. And now in year 2, I've got storage units, right? Because I got to buy PCs 5 or 6 at a time to make it, and I got to buy projectors in bulk, and I got to buy, I got to buy materials, and and I've got people making screens for me. And, I'm sourcing screen material and having a sewing company do work for me. And there's all this stuff. So I was selling, I was designing, I was doing 3D renderings for people like I did for you. I started doing that early on. And that was a huge, nobody was doing it in the business at the time. So it was a big, people would call me up and go, I can't believe you got this 3D rendering. I'm like, it took me 5 seconds on it doesn't take long. So I'm selling, I'm designing, I'm closing deals, I'm building, I'm inventorying, and then I'm still going out in the field and doing every install. Every single install was on me, and I had a guy helping me. But I certainly didn't have anybody who was qualified to go do it themselves, because I wasn't qualified. I was literally learning on every job how to do the stuff that I was doing. And then clearing $1 million on that first year, or that second year, was a huge thing. And that was when I said, I gotta get my own showroom. I need 2 simulator bays to show off multiple technology. I need a couple of offices. I'm gonna need a trailer. I need a warehouse. I need storage. I need tools. I need all this stuff. So I started looking for a space, and right in the middle of that process, this thing called COVID happened. And I don't know. I mean, listen, I know a lot of people out there suffered during COVID, so I'm going to try to say this with the utmost respect to all the people who lost their jobs and lost income during that time. But this company exploded. We went bananas during COVID. It literally just took off. And we couldn't possibly have seen it. I was looking at maybe a 20 or 30% increase in sales for 2020. Well, it was 400%, and it just went. And now I'm hiring installers. Now I got 5 installers. None of them know what they're doing. Now I got 2 other sales guys who I'm trying to train to make sure that the process is the same. The showroom's going crazy. It's booked constantly. The sales guys, all my sales guys don't work in the building. They work remotely, and then they book the showroom to come in and give demos. So
can't get equipment because there's back orders on everything all over the world.
Yeah, and little things like touch screens weren't coming out of China. So I called Acer and bought all their inventory. They had 80 screens or something. I just bought them all. And then I went to Panasonic and bought all their projectors. I actually had other simulator companies calling me going, do you have any of those projectors? I'm like, yeah, I got lots of them, and they're not for sale. Click. That's a true story, right? But I also was taking deposits, right? So at one point I'm like, I got $300,000 in cash sitting in the bank, right? So now I'm like, well, let's buy some projectors, right? Because who knows when the ports are opening up. At that time, there wasn't vaccines, there was no masks. People didn't even have masks. And then other companies are being told they have to close. So the company that was sewing my screens, right? I'm calling them going, are you open? Because I'm taking orders and I need you to make screens. And they're like, and the guys literally pivoted his business to making masks, and the government allowed him to stay open. So they could make masks and my stuff. And I honestly, if they had shut down, I don't know whether we'd be having this conversation right now. It was that close, right?
So by the end of 2020, or so let's say middle of 2021, your wife is probably regretting that decision of letting you go out and start your own company. I guess you were feeling very blessed that your company was growing. You had something real, but she hadn't seen you in 3 years. It seems like
it's actually So the first 2 years I was working in the basement, so she saw me a lot, and I was building wall panels on my dining room table, and so I was stapling wall panels on the dining room table. So she was happy to have me get a showroom and leave for a bit. But you're right. It was one of those times where if you're awake, you're working, right? Yep. And I would literally like go home and sleep and get up and just go to work. And it was 7 days a week, all the time. And it was building a company, right? Building people, training people, assigning, and now you're building CRMs and accounting systems that integrate. And I mean, it's a lot. It was a lot because it happened so fast all at once. And then 2021 grew, not not at that pace, but it did grow. And then we were getting orders from mostly most of them were in Ontario, but we started taking orders from the Northeast U.S., which was Maine, New York State, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and I had a guy here who had a visa and could cross because you couldn't. There was even a time during COVID where you couldn't cross, like you couldn't. You couldn't go. So I had a guy here who he'd been playing hockey in the States and still had a visa, and so he was able to go install simulators for me, and so we started taking so many orders from the Northeast U.S. that in 2021, late 2021. We went down to New Jersey and found a location and built a showroom in New Jersey. And my guy here moved down there, and we had a showroom and an operations center there because we couldn't send people across the border all the time. Like it was not a viable business solution. So we opened up a business in the U.S. And I can tell you, man, you probably know this, but my God, it's tough to open a business in the U.S. and paying taxes in every zip code. What's up with that? That is. They
don't make it easy. They don't make it easy. Everybody says U.S. is the land of the free, but it's you got to make sure you're paying everybody along the way.
Yeah, I mean, in Canada we have 10 different tax rates, one for each province. You guys have a different tax rate for every postal code, right? So it was a lot of effort. I had one guy. All he did was do the documentation and the banking and all that stuff. In the U.S. was really tough. So that grew in 2022, and then again, sales just continued to grow in Ontario, and then in the northeastern U.S. It just kept going. So
fast forward to 2021, you have you're still all U.S. Canada based. Sounds like you're around 4 million or 5 million in revenue at this time. Annual revenue. How large is your team at this time? Right before kind of you opened up in the U.S. and then kind of 2025, where were we at revenue wise and headcount? Just to kind of put it in perspective for people on the kind of growth that you experienced.
Yeah. So at that time in 2021, when the U.S. was opening, we had 5 installers, an operations manager, general manager, 3 sales guys plus me. And then I was subcontracting out marketing, and of course then I had people coming in and making wall panels because we were literally making wall panels by the hundreds. So that was your
screen. Your screen is the best part of what you built here for me. It's proprietary. Like I've hit 8,000 balls into this screen already, and I can't see a single mark on it. I listened to you, and I haven't used the dirty ball, and I've cleaned my clubs, but it seems like you're selling a lot of these screens outside of just your business now because they're awesome.
Yeah. So there's two things there. One is those simulator screens are getting hit by a golf ball, and what do people do with golf balls? They put Sharpie on them. They write on them. And they get dirty, and sometimes they come from outside into your golf bag, and then they come into the simulator, and that's a really bad thing. That little bit of dirt on your club or on your ball will transfer directly to the screen, and any Sharpie on that golf ball, you can't rub it off with your finger off the ball, but at 3,000 RPM at 150 miles an hour, it's coming off on the screen, and you'll never get it off the screen. So I think you and I had that discussion, and I've had the discussion with every single customer we've ever had. Is like, do not use Sharpie on your golf balls. Have golf balls.
We digress though. So 2021.
Yeah,
it seems like you're around 10 or 12 people. Mm-hmm. Was it at 4 or 5 million in revenue right before kind of you went on to the States?
Yeah, and it was about 4.5, and then. Mm-hmm. And then the U.S. business there never was really that profitable. It was a bit just slightly break even. We ran that for a couple of years out of New Jersey. We did a lot of business there, but it was so expensive to keep it operating that it really didn't become a money maker. But what happened in 2023 was I met Rene Delgado from the Indoor Golf Shop. And that changed pretty much everything. We had been invited by one of our vendors to go golf, a business golf trip to Napa, and I'm out on a golf course with him. And he had this great business selling all the do-it-yourself enclosures, the built-for-you stuff that like ordered online. He didn't have any at the time. He didn't have any custom design build stuff. It wasn't sending installers out to do anything. It was strictly an online store where buy the components and ship it. Mm-hmm. And so on the golf course, it was like, and I'll back up. I had been dabbling in an online store, but online stores are a huge business and it's not easy to do. I had built a little store and I was selling, ones and twos of things, but to do it right it requires massive scale. And I was way out of my league on that stuff. I didn't know how to do any of that stuff. I knew how to sell simulators. That was what I knew how to do, and I was learned how to install them. So we on the golf course we got talking, and it was like, hey, are we open to having this discussion about putting the businesses together? And we both agreed yes, and that led to 2023 being. We spent a lot of time that year figuring out how to merge our businesses. And
wow! So you did some M&A, and you took some equity, and you kind of combined the two companies into one.
We combined two companies into one, and now we're Indoor Golf Shop was a much bigger business than ours. So I'm the minority in the group. There's just the two of us, and Rene had a huge shop in Dallas. And we had we had built a showroom together in Chicago, and then my shop in Jersey was no longer required, so we closed it in 2024. And now we have our own sew factory, and we have a whole bunch of staff in Dallas making our own screens. So where I was outsourcing it, and all of our marketing is in-house now. I mean, I think there's 65 staff now.
Holy cow. And that's between the two companies?
Yeah, between the two companies. Now, granted, most of that is on the retail side.
But have you continued to do installs across the United States, or is it only Canada now?
No. It's across both. And InHome Golf, built its operations team out of Dallas. And in fact, this year we're actually going to sunset the brand InHome Golf in the U.S. because there was too much confusion between what people were doing. So it'll be Indoor Golf. It's as of now, it's Indoor Golf Shop. So you can go to Indoor Golf Shop and get a custom design installation, which is basically the in-home team doing that.
Beautiful. So the companies will merge in name and ops now.
Yeah, I mean originally we had thought maybe the brand was important to keep separate, and I think in the U.S. not so much. Here in Canada, InHome Golf has a real reputation, and I get a lot of referrals from people. I think the brand has equity here, and I think we're going to keep it here. And of course, separating countries is easy to do.
So InHome Golf, what's the split now in revenue between the United States and Canada as far as installs go? I know you guys flew to California to do a buddy's install. Long Island for a friend of ours, Georgia for me.
The U.S. is probably 3 times the size of Canada now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
wow.
we have 6 install teams out of Dallas running pretty much full time. We're having trouble keeping installers. We're having trouble training them fast enough.
Oh my
Getting
gosh.
them out there. And then of course there's the seasonal dips, right? The summer's always harder because people are installing simulators in the winter. So there's always peak demand in winter and lower demand in the summer. So you have to kind of balance that with staff. But no. The U.S. is far bigger. And as it should be, it's 10 times the population. So it should be bigger, right? It should be. So
what's the 2026 revenue goal for the the install division? I know the retail is a little different because it's a markup on all the products that you sell, but what's your, and then retail, the install is similarly, you got a lot of equipment with an install, but what's the kind of revenue goal for 2026 with your 6 crews working around the clock?
I don't want to get into the revenue numbers, but for me, I want to build as many simulators as I can, the goal is just to continue to if somebody calls and wants a simulator, we need to be able to build it out in a certain amount of time, right? There's like if you call in November and want one before Christmas, you're not getting it, right? Yeah. That's just not happening. Yeah. So the goal is to have a team big enough that we can react fast and get your simulator in the door within 2 months. Pretty much.
Man, incredible growth. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Are you glad you took the leap? Has it been rewarding and worth it? Yeah,
for sure. And it's not without challenges. It's a whole different ball game. But here's the other thing about being an entrepreneur. There's nothing in my business that is particularly I don't have any intellectual property, right? I don't have any IP in my business, right? So I've designed that screen system that you have, and it's in my opinion, it's the best in the market, but it's not rocket science. There are people who are copying what we're doing, and there are a lot of little companies doing what I was doing 5 years ago. They're doing now, right? They're building these little things, and I knew before the merger that it was only a matter of time before I was up against a whole raft of people copying what I was doing. There were already people copying what I was doing in 2022 and 2023, and I was just a little bit ahead of the game. And so from a growth perspective, I understood that the only way InHome or my company stood a chance would be to come together with a bigger organization that had deeper pockets and bigger legs and a broader reach, and be able to service the entire simulator industry from entry level to high end. And that was what Renee and Indoor Golf Shop provided, and it's been incredible. The growth has been far beyond anything I could have possibly imagined. And as I said earlier, I was really just trying to build a little cottage industry out of my basement. I really didn't have, some people have a business plan. They're like, I think we can make $1 million, or we're gonna make all kinds of money. I didn't have any of that. I really didn't. I really just wanted to do something and did it, and just kept kind of chasing it. And as things grew, the opportunities came, and you just kind of grab the opportunity and run.
So you didn't spend 6 months building a business plan. You didn't go out and raise money. You didn't, plan all of your marketing and make your 5-year cash flow projection document. You said, hey, honey, I think I can get enough customers to replace my salary pretty quickly. Let's give this thing a run. And you jumped.
That's exactly right. Blind faith in my own abilities. And then, like I said earlier, a spouse who is willing to support my chaos, which is
gut instinct, though. I think the gut instinct of entrepreneurs is underrated.
Yeah. I mean, I think so. I see it in a lot of guys who are like me, who are sales guys. because I'm a sales guy at heart. I like to build relationships. I like to build rapport in a conversation, and that instinct is there. Especially guys who are commission only, where they know that they're only going to get fed if they can do this next deal, and that's an important part of it. But yeah, I know there's two ways. There's two ways to be an entrepreneur, right? One is study and by the book and process, and the other one is by gut. And I'm definitely in the latter category.
So I think you've already kind of answered what the hardest part of entrepreneurship was. It sounds like you spent 3 years of your life just plugging holes in the bucket, hiring the next person that you knew you needed, 6 months after you knew you needed them. What's been the best part? And maybe if you do want to talk to what the worst part is, you're welcome to do that. But I want to like, you're talking to an entrepreneur who's maybe in your shoes. They're 30 years old, 40 years old, 50 years old. They got bills to pay. They got families. They're onto a concept. They know they could go out and potentially do it. What's been the hardest part, and then what's been the easiest part or the most rewarding part? I don't know if none of it's really easy, but what's been a pleasant surprise about being an entrepreneur?
The most rewarding part by far is being able to work for yourself. For myself. When you get up in the morning, everybody needs motivation to get up in the morning and go to work. And when you work for other people, that can be really difficult. And it was always difficult for me to work for other people. And so building a business that I relied only on me, that was something I understood. And I never felt more comfortable than when I was running my own show. Right. Yep. And then you become a victim of your own growth. Where now I'm in a larger company, and it's not just me. Or there's teams of people who are running specific things for you, and you have to come back to be part of a team. And I've always struggled a little bit with that, where I trust my instinct, and I can make my own decisions quickly and fast, and then that kind of larger corporations require patience.
Yeah, there's a lot on the line when every decision you make, there's 30, 40, as you said, 60 people's whose families depend on the decisions that you make.
Yeah.
But what you said as like the benefit, I want to echo that, because it's very rare. I think sometimes in the open market, when you go get a job, you are directly rewarded, directly compensated for the value that you bring to the table. But the only way where literally the money that ends up in your bank account is directly correlated to how much value you add to the market or to the world is through entrepreneurship. And there's something phenomenally rewarding knowing that you're laying down at night and you're building exactly what you deserve, and it's up to your decision making, and it's up to your competence and ability. So I think that's an amazing part of it.
And you sleep well, like you. Like you sleep well when you're tired because you've been working for your own efforts, and there's a comfort in the work that you put in, and you don't I got rid of a lot of anxiety when I was working for myself. My anxiety became different, right? It was more like how do I fulfill the contracts that I've sold? How do I right, as opposed to where does the money for dinner come from, or how do I pay my rent? That's a different anxiety, but I found that I slept really well in the midst of all that, because I was very confident and comfortable in my own. I trusted my own instincts, and I think that's a very rewarding thing, and I underrated, and probably more of a surprise to me in hindsight. I didn't see that as a side effect. And let's face it, man, if you're doing something that you love and you have a passion for the work you're doing, it's going to come through in your attitude. It's going to come through in the quality of work you do. It's going to come through in your conversations with your customer, and it's going to be reflected in the success of your business. And there's no way around that. If you dislike your people, if you're frustrated at work, it's good. It's really hard to overcome that and succeed when you've got that hanging over you. And I think
it's industry agnostic sometimes too. My buddy, it's sometimes people who just love building and love chasing opportunity and love winning. So if you're building something successful, it can be fun and you're energized to get up. I have a friend who lives in Salt Lake City, Chris Hatch, who started a company called Dirt Dogs, and I was hanging out with him last week, and he's like, how you know if you're a dirt dog? And I'm like, no, tell me. And he goes, all right, imagine you've slept 3 hours, you've been in airports for the last 6 days straight. And you just slept in a shitty Motel 6 for $70 a night, and it's 5 a.m. and you just got a cup of coffee and you are excited to drive around town and look for land to potentially buy. That's how you know you're a dirt dog.
Yeah, well, and you know, like I've had this conversation with a couple people already too. It's like I can't remember the last time I had a cold, and but it's because you just work through shit, and there's no way for you to go down. You can't go down for a day, right? Mm-hmm. You just have to plow through everything. And I don't remember the last time I was you know, I needed to take a day and disconnect. Like, you're just connected. It's fine. It's what it's and that's a great feeling when your heart and soul is built into what you're doing. So, you know,
do you still do some installs? Do you still do any installs, or is it almost all kind of management doing the hard stuff now?
You know, I love being out doing installs, and what I try to do is I try to go out with every one of our new installers. Like, they get trained, and then I like to go out and do an install with each guy. So I have a new guy here, and we're going to Calgary tomorrow. We're building the TaylorMade Fitting Center in Calgary.
All right.
Now, we've done a lot of work for TaylorMade, so they're a big customer of ours, obviously great brand. And I would go on this one anyway because it's TaylorMade. Right? I want to make sure. I just want to make sure that the right hands are shaken and the right babies are kissed and you know, that kind of thing. So, but I take the opportunity to go with a new installer and make sure they experience me on an install. You know, I find if I don't work with the install team, there's it just evolves. It evolves differently. Sometimes I've been out in the field and I found some guys are doing things which are improving the process. Sometimes they're missing things and they need to be brought around. More often than not, it's the former. I find guys are teaching me some great things, like how to cut turf better or whatever. So it's good to be grounded in your business, and the core of what InHome Golf is building custom installations. So going out in the field is critical. Now I only go out once a quarter or so now, but I definitely like getting in the field. I think it's important. You know, you can easily separate yourself from the business, right, and sit in your office up here and think that everything's running smoothly. But then we have people that go into people's houses, right? I send guys out to your house and they're in your house and they need to be representing the brand correctly and doing the work to a certain standard. Because it's not just click together stuff. It's not Lego, right? Like it's you know, there's work. There's a standard of work that needs to be maintained.
Yep. Well said. Well said. Any last thoughts, any advice for the entrepreneurs out there who, you know, are a couple years behind you and trying to build a brand, a service company, a hard business, you know, trying to build it up?
You know, just do it. That's like, you have to trust your own instincts. And I'm a firm believer that if your mind is saying to go that way, go that way. And there's always people around you, including your employees, who will caution, or family, like extended family. I have great extended family, which is awesome, but they can be, I've seen friends run business and their family's always like, yeah, you shouldn't be doing that. You should be doing this. Tell them all to shut up. Don't listen to any of that. Don't listen to any of that. You got to follow your own gut. You're there for a reason. Get up and put every waking minute into it and own it. And if you make mistakes, own the mistakes. It's okay. It's okay to make mistakes. It's not okay to repeat the mistakes, but it's okay to make the mistakes. So make the mistakes, learn, pivot, grow. But I you know, if there's advice, make sure your family is with you. Mm-hmm. Make sure your spouse is on your side, and then go for it. Give it everything you got. And all the money that you come in the first year or so, get it back in the business and grow the business. Yep. And you have idea. You have no idea what's on the other side. You really don't, because I didn't. I didn't.
Well, and also invest in your golf game, man, because we were talking about that at the beginning of the episode, and sure enough, you made one of the biggest deals of your life over a relationship that was developed and built on the golf course. So
on the golf course,
as an entrepreneur, whether you're in sales, whether you're in home services, whether you're in, you know, an investment manager, golf is a way to expand your network and build deeper relationships with other men. So yeah, it's been an amazing blessing for my life. And James, my simulator is making me better at golf. It's going to make my kids better at golf. I'm really appreciative. Why don't you say your email again one more time so folks can reach out to you if they have questions about a simulator, want to send you the dimensions on a space. Maybe what an offer here is like, hey, if you send it some dimensions, James will let you know if it can work and make some recommendations for you for free. Like
absolutely. And I'm happy to talk to anybody about their space and do a little design for them. We do 3D models of people's houses all the time to show them, hey, this is what could work well in your space. But I'm at james@inhomegolf.com. Our website in Canada is InHomeGolf.com, but in the US it's shopindoorgolf.com. So shopindoorgolf.com is got the whole wide range of everything, and that's the place to get everything. But
James, awesome stuff, man. I'm excited to do this again in a couple of years when you guys are even bigger and doing more. And thanks for coming and sharing your wisdom. Awesome, and yeah, man, appreciate everything you do.
I'm so glad your space has worked out, and I love your room. There is one of the coolest that I think we've done. It's really neat.
Thanks,
we didn't get a chance to smoke a cigar in there. I don't think your HVAC was working quite the same.
Got the simulator in first. I have my priorities. Great.
Next time.
All right. Talk soon, bud.
All right, man. Thank you very much.